yes, he is an upgrade. How much of an upgrade remains to be seen? But look, Buck, we love to trot out the fact that Baker Mayfield has thrown more interceptions than anybody over his time in the league. But what we don't talk about is that Sam Darnold is very close behind, only a couple behind, and hasn't thrown nearly as many touchdown passes. I look overall, there's a reason that Baker Mayfield was taken number one in that draft and Sam was taken number 3. I wasn't necessarily on board with Baker being the best quarterback in that draft, but I certainly did not believe that Darnold was, based on their accomplishments and just their overall ability. And I'm not talking about physical ability, because that's to me where Darnold was given the edge by many, or that we're even having this debate. Because if it's on pure production, the numbers say that Baker is the better quarterback. And if we're looking simply at accomplishments with their respective teams, and I know that being with the Jets and then with the Panthers, Darnold hasn't played the same level of talent that Baker has, but ultimately you have to be able to do what you can do with what you have. I don't see in any way, I can't make any case, Buck, that Sam Darnold is better or equal to Baker for all of the issues that Baker may have, both as a leader and simply his ability to run a team from the quarterback position. Baker is an upgrade. Is it going to be enough of an upgrade? Probably not, but certainly an upgrade.
Okay, so I hear you about on paper, Baker Mayfield is an upgrade, but it's a good thing we don't play the game on paper. We play it on the grass, and scouts are going to put these guys up side by side, and they're going to be fascinated by the differences between these two players. They're as different as cats and dogs, because when you look at Baker Mayfield, undersized, gritty competitor, yes, he has plenty of wins, has a playoff win on his resume, but, man, that size difference is going to be challenging for evaluators to look past, particularly when he stands beside and he throws beside Sam Darnold. And for all of Sam Darnold's flaws, here's what he does have in his favor when it comes to the Baker Mayfield comparison. He's bigger, faster, stronger. He's a better athlete. And sometimes when you see that up close and personal, it can be hard for a coach to pull the trigger. And remember, the evaluation that you're doing as a coaching staff and as a front office is not with the entire offseason in play. You're talking about a 6-week run, 4 weeks in training camp, a couple of preseason games, and then the head coach, Matt Rule, is tasked with making a decision on who is going to be the starter going into the season. If Baker Mayfield had made this move early in March, in April, where he had a full run to really develop the chemistry and continuity, learn the system, I would say maybe you could consider him an upgrade. But right now, Sam Darnold starts with a head start, and I don't know if Baker Mayfield can make it up by week 1. So let's bring in our coach, Eric Mangini. Coach, what do you think when it comes to the upgrade of Baker Mayfield over Sam Darnold?
Okay, I think you might have hit the pause button on me earlier since you like Sam Darnold so much. I'm on the Baker Mayfield starter and wins the job track because of a lot of things. When you look at every objective criteria, whether it's completion percentage, whether it's quarterback rating, whether it's touchdown percentage, interception percentage, the fact that he's been able to win a playoff game, all those different things means that he's an upgrade. And to me, this was a great move by Carolina. It gives them a chance to look at him for a year. They're paying very little money. What is it, $4.5 million? He comes in, he takes a pay cut, which means he's motivated, he's angry, he's on his second team. He plays, it seems to me that he plays better that way. And I know he's at a disadvantage in terms of learning the system. Sam's got the edge there, but he's played long enough and he's played with enough new coordinators to know how to be able to learn a system quickly. I think this is a really good move for Carolina. Now, I'd say the one issue or the one concern I'd have is, was this driven by management or was this driven by the coaching staff? Because if it wasn't, if the coaching staff isn't on board, then he's going to have a hard time beating Sam Darnold out. If they're willing to give him a legitimate shot, I think he should be the day one starter and he should be an upgrade.
Yeah, Buck, look, the whole eye test thing when it comes to the physical abilities and the measurements and all that, if we were going into the draft then maybe I would say that Darnold has an advantage, even though he ended up not having one. They going into the same draft. But we've seen them play, and you can't tell me that for all of the physical advantages that Sam Darnold has, and even the head start that he has in the system, my number one question has always been Sam Darnold's decision making. And all of that physical ability is not going to compensate for making the wrong decision, not seeing the field, throwing to the wrong receiver, etc. Baker his decision making hasn't always been great, but it generally, when he gets into trouble, is when he tries to do too much. If he stays within himself, and I would hope that in some ways, being to Eric's point, being on his second team, being humbled, having a sort of I need to prove myself all over again, that maybe we're not going to have as much of that crazy gunslinger that got him into trouble in Cleveland. Because we've seen times where he's been able to manage a game. And honestly, I can't say that about Sam Darnold. So that's why look, if Baker comes in with the right attitude and right approach, and to Coach's point, like if he's given the opportunity, I don't even think this is really close in terms of what Baker's capable of doing under center compared to what Darnold has already demonstrated that he's not capable of doing.
Oh, wow, man. I didn't know that Baker Mayfield was suddenly Pat Mahomes because he played so well last season when we saw him. I know we're going to talk about the injury.
And I'm just saying he's not Sam Darnold.
You wax poetic about Baker Mayfield, and then I looked last year, he had career lows in a bunch of different categories as it relates to passing. And let's understand this, because I do think you make a great point about Baker Mayfield. If the Baker Mayfield shows up determined to be a great game manager, then Baker Mayfield certainly is and can be an upgrade over Sam Darnold. But if Baker Mayfield, the hero ball player, shows up, that's when he gets in trouble. Because the one thing about Baker Mayfield is when he plays within himself and he does it like it's scripted, he certainly plays well, and he's made better decisions than Sam Darnold. However, there are times when I feel like Baker Mayfield sees himself as something that he's not, a high-end playmaker who has athleticism to outrun defenses. That's when the turnovers happen. And so in a competition, when you have Sam Darnold, who has a head start because he knows the system, and Baker Mayfield, who's trying to prove to the world that he's still the guy that was the number one overall pick, I just worry about Baker Mayfield trying to do too much. And if he tries to do too much, Sam Darnold is going to win the job by default.
But Bucky, in fairness to Baker, he played most of the season hurt last year. And the season before, he had 26 touchdowns and what was it, 6 picks or 8 picks. So he's shown that he can be a really good decision maker. With Sam Darnold, he had every opportunity in New York to succeed. Everybody wanted him to be successful. Then he goes to Carolina. They pay a really big price to get him. They desperately want him to be successful. He's had 2 tremendous opportunities from 2 different teams. So to me, the information is what the information is in that situation, where Baker has proven that he can do it at a successful level, at a playoff level. And now he's angry. He took a pay cut. He's been humbled. He's got a new opportunity. He's on the final year of his contract. And they've upgraded the team in Carolina. I think he's got a chance to not only be personally successful, but I think they've got a chance to be successful as a team.
So this is also why I believe that he's going to get a legitimate shot at it. Because otherwise, why do it? Why would Carolina do it? You got Matt Corral. You got the quarterback possibly in the wings, your future quarterback. You got Sam. Like, what? They didn't need to bring Baker in unless they thought that Baker could do more than Sam did, or that they were off of Sam at this point. And the price point is right, but to go through all the machinations that they have in order to get Baker, and to look past some of the questions that didn't make him very popular with any of the other teams in the NFL, it kind of gives you a little bit of insight into, without having all the histrionics with Sam in Carolina, what they think of Sam Darnold. And they're like, So how much is it going to cost us to get Baker? And let's go ahead and let's pull the trigger and let's go get it. You only do that if you don't like the hand that you're dealt at the time.
I think Coach Mangini made a great point. It really depends on who started the decision making. Is this a management decision or just a coaching decision? Because looking at what Ben McAdoo said in 2018, he said about Baker Mayfield, I did see a lot of pro-style football in his college tape, and if you're short, you have to be able to make up for it some way, somehow. Personality doesn't do that. I didn't think he was a great athlete. This is the kind of like a pocket quarterback that is short and with small hands. That's what I worry about. So even though we're coaches and we want to be fair when it comes to these evaluations, I do wonder, can Baker overcome that first impression that he made on the offensive coordinator? So when Coach talks about management versus coaching, I wonder how that is baked into the evaluation cake. Coach, how do you handle that if you're a coaching staff who may not have been all the way on board with this decision?
Well, there's a couple things I want to cover. First, Rick, to your point and about his opportunity to start, I don't think Baker would have taken the pay cut unless they told him you've got a legitimate shot. And they had to be pretty compelling. It had to be a pretty compelling argument for him to say, all right, I'm going to bet on myself here. And if he thought that he didn't have a shot. And also in fairness to Ben McAdoo, look, as coaches, we make evaluations in the draft, and one position that we all constantly misevaluate, the whole league does, is quarterback. And we see that lesson shown or taught to us every year by Tom Brady. So look, you may say something in the past and have a totally different feeling about a guy when you get him in the building. I've had situations where players have been thrust upon me, and sometimes initially you're angry about it, but at the end of the day, we're all inherently selfish and we all want to win. And if that player comes in and shows that he gives us the best opportunity to win, and this is a coaching staff that's under fire, that they have to do the selfish thing, and that is play the best player to help them win, and ultimately that helps them keep their job and live to coach another season.
Coach, this is fascinating because I don't know if we've ever seen two quarterbacks that have been closely tied together from the draft class all the way through compete. It's only happened one time, and that was with the Oakland Raiders back in 1980 when they had Jim Plunkett and Dan Pastorini. We saw that played out. I want to say the Raiders won the Super Bowl that year. We'll see if Carolina can do that.